Two murders, two young victims, two convictions that would later be questioned. In 1999, a high school senior vanished after school. Weeks later, her body was found in a shallow grave, and her ex-boyfriend was arrested, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. But years later, a podcast would unravel the case, exposing flaws in the investigation that left the world wondering, was justice really served? Just a few years later, across the ocean in a quiet Italian town, another young woman was murdered in her own bedroom. Her American roommate quickly became the center of a global media storm, accused of a crime so brutal it defied comprehension. Convicted, then acquitted, then convicted again, her case became one of the most controversial in legal history. Today, we're diving into two of the most infamous wrongful conviction cases of the 21st century. Or were they? This is the story of the case of Adnan Syed and Amanda Knox. Let's begin. In January 1999, a high school senior in Baltimore vanished without a trace. A month later, her body was discovered in a shallow grave, and soon after, her ex-boyfriend was arrested and charged with her murder. The case seemed open and shut, until it wasn't. For more than 2 decades, shocking twists and legal battles unraveled what many once believed to be a straightforward conviction. Then, in 2022, a stunning revelation changed everything. Today, we're diving deep into the case that captured the world's attention, the investigation that raised more questions than answers, and the new evidence that led to a dramatic reversal of justice. Stay tuned, because this is a case where nothing is as it seems. Hyman Lee was a bright and ambitious high school senior at Woodlawn High School. She had dreams of becoming an optometrist and was well liked by friends and teachers. She had dated Adnan Syed, a fellow student known for his intelligence and charm, but by the time of her disappearance, their relationship had ended. Police suspected a crime of passion. Adnan was the ex-boyfriend, and in their eyes, that made him the prime suspect. They needed more, though, something to tie him to the crime. That's when they got a call from a young man named Jay Wilds. Jay, a classmate of Adnan's, came forward with an explosive claim. He told investigators that he had helped Adnan bury High's body in Leakin Park. His testimony was damning. He described in detail how Adnan had called him after the murder, asked for his help, and together, they disposed of the body. Jay's testimony was further supported by cell phone records, which, according to the prosecution, placed Adnan at the crime scene. It was enough. In February 2000, Adnan Syed was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. For many, the case was closed. But for others, something didn't sit right. For over a decade, Adnan remained behind bars. His case might have been forgotten until 2014, when journalist Sarah Koenig decided to take a closer look. Her podcast, Serial, became an instant sensation. Millions of listeners followed along as Koenig dissected every aspect of the case, raising critical questions. Why was there no physical evidence linking Adnan to the crime? Why did Jay Wilds' story change multiple times? Why did Adnan's defense attorney fail to call a key alibi witness? That witness, Asia McLean, had stated that she saw Adnan at the library at the time of the murder. If true, this would mean he could not have killed Hai. Yet, for some reason, his attorney never presented this at trial. There was also the issue of the cell phone data, once thought to be the nail in Adnan's coffin. It turned out that AT&T, the very company that provided the records, had warned police that incoming call data was unreliable for tracking location. This crucial detail was never shared with Adnan's defense team. These revelations led to renewed legal battles. In 2016, a judge granted Adnan a new trial citing ineffective counsel, but the state fought back, and in 2019, Maryland's highest court reinstated his conviction. It seemed all hope was lost. Until in 2022, an unexpected discovery changed everything. A new law in Maryland allowed those convicted as juveniles to request a review of their cases after serving more than 20 years. This prompted the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office to take another look at Adnan's case. What they found was shocking. In the prosecutor's files, buried among decades-old notes, were two alternative suspects, neither of whom had ever been properly investigated. These individuals had histories of violence against women, and one of them had even lived near where Hayes' car was found. But perhaps most disturbing of all, this information had never been disclosed to the defense. This was a Brady violation. Evidence that could have helped Adnan's case had been intentionally or negligently withheld. Then came the final blow: forensic testing. For the first time, DNA evidence from Hai Min Lee's body and car was tested using modern technology. The results? No DNA from Adnan Syed was found, none at all. With this, prosecutors had no choice. On September 19, 2022, after more than 20 years behind bars, Adnan's conviction was vacated, and on October 11th, prosecutors dropped all charges. While Adnan Syed is now free, questions remain. Who did kill Hai Min Lee? Why were alternative suspects ignored for? And most hauntingly, what if serial had never been made? Hai Min Lee's family remains convinced that justice has not been served. They maintain that Adnan was guilty and feel betrayed by the legal system's decision to overturn the case. Meanwhile, the search for Hai's real killer continues. The two alternative suspects remain unnamed by authorities, but their criminal histories suggest they may have been capable of such a crime. Adnan Syed spent over 20 years in prison for a murder he may not have committed, but until someone else is held accountable, the mystery of Hai Min Lee's death remains unsolved, and so the case is far from over. The story of Adnan Syed is more than just a murder case. It's a lesson in the flaws of the criminal justice system. It's about the power of storytelling, the importance of forensic science, and the way new technology can change the course of history. One thing is certain: the fight for truth doesn't end here. In 2007, a young British student was found brutally murdered in a quiet Italian town. The case shocked the world. At the center of the investigation was her American roommate, a bright-eyed exchange student whose carefree behavior quickly turned her from a grieving friend to the prime suspect. What followed was a media frenzy, a conviction, an acquittal, another conviction, and a final shocking twist that would leave the world questioning everything they thought they knew. This is the story of Amanda Knox and the murder of Meredith Kercher, one of the most controversial criminal cases of the 21st century. Perugia, Italy, is a picturesque town known for its medieval architecture, rolling hills, and thriving student population. In 2007, 21-year-old Meredith Kercher, a British exchange student, had just begun her studies there, sharing a small cottage with 3 other women, one of whom was Amanda Knox, a 20-year-old American student from Seattle. On the morning of November 2, 2007, police received a chilling call. Meredith's partially clothed body was discovered in her bedroom. She had been stabbed multiple times, her throat slashed. Signs of a struggle suggested she had fought for her life. There was no forced entry, but a window had been broken. Initially, it looked like a burglary gone wrong. But soon, investigators turned their attention to someone much closer to home. Amanda Knox and her boyfriend, Raffaele Solicito, were quickly put under scrutiny. The two had spent the night together and claimed they had been at Solicito's apartment when the murder happened, but inconsistencies in their stories, coupled with what authorities deemed odd behavior, raised suspicions. At the police station, Amanda was seen doing yoga stretches. She and Raphael were reportedly affectionate with one another, even laughing at times. The media painted this as chillingly inappropriate behavior for someone whose roommate had just been murdered. Then came the interrogation. Amanda was questioned for hours, overnight, without a lawyer or interpreter present. Under immense pressure, she provided a shocking statement. She implicated herself, saying she was in the house the night of the murder and that a man named Patrick Lumumba, her boss at a local bar, had killed Meredith. This would later be the foundation of her legal nightmare. Police arrested Amanda, Raphael, and Patrick Lumumba, convinced they had solved the case. But within weeks, Lumumba was proven innocent. He had an airtight alibi. He had been at his bar, nowhere near the crime scene. Amanda retracted her statement, claiming she had been coerced into it. But the damage was already done. Authorities focused on Amanda and Raphael, building a case against them based on forensic evidence. A knife found at Solicito's apartment had Amanda's DNA on the handle, and what police said was Meredith's DNA on the blade. Behavior. Amanda's apparent lack of grief, her bizarre conduct, and her changing statements fueled the prosecution's theory. A witness statement. A homeless man claimed he saw Amanda and Raphael near the crime scene on the night of the murder. The prosecution's theory was dramatic. Amanda, Raphael, and a third man, Rudy Gued, had killed Meredith in a violent sex game gone wrong. Gued, a local drifter, had fled to Germany shortly after the murder. Unlike Amanda and Raphael, his DNA was found all over Meredith's room, on her body, and inside her. When captured, Getty admitted to being there but claimed he had nothing to do with the murder. He was tried separately and convicted. Despite the lack of hard evidence linking Amanda or Raphael to the crime scene, both were found guilty of murder in 2009. Amanda was sentenced to 26 years and Raphael to 25 years. Amanda spent 4 years in an Italian prison, maintaining her innocence. Then, in 2011, her appeal took a dramatic turn. Independent forensic experts reviewed the DNA evidence and found that the DNA on the knife blade was too small and unreliable to be considered valid. The so-called evidence linking Solicito to the crime scene, a bra clasp with his DNA, had been mishandled and could have been contaminated. With these findings, the convictions of Amanda and Raphael were overturned. Amanda, now 24, walked free, tearfully returning to the United States. But the story wasn't over. In 2013, Italy's Supreme Court of Cassation ruled that the acquittal had flaws and ordered a retrial. In 2014, Amanda and Raphael were convicted again. This time, Amanda was sentenced to 28 years in prison. Now back in the US, Amanda refused to return to Italy. If extradited, she faced spending most of her life behind bars. But then, in 2015, another twist changed everything. In March 2015, Italy's highest court overturned Amanda's conviction for good, citing stunning errors in the investigation and a complete lack of credible evidence. The ruling was final. Amanda Knox was officially exonerated. The court admitted that the case had been mishandled from the start. The police had coerced a confession from Amanda. The DNA evidence was unreliable and improperly collected. There was no physical evidence linking Amanda or Raphael to the crime scene. The only person definitively tied to the murder was Rudy Gued, who had already been convicted. Today, Amanda Knox is an advocate for wrongful convictions and criminal justice reform. She has written a memoir, given talks, and works to shed light on the dangers of coercive interrogations. Raffaele Solicito has maintained his innocence and largely stayed out of the public eye. Rudy Guidi, the one man whose DNA was actually found at the crime scene, served 13 years in prison and was released in 2021. The case remains a cautionary tale of media sensationalism, flawed forensics, and the devastating consequences of wrongful convictions. The murder of Meredith Kercher was a tragedy that left scars on many lives. But the case of Amanda Knox became something bigger, a global debate about justice, due process, and the power of perception. The case of Amanda Knox will forever remain one of the most bizarre, controversial, and chilling legal sagas in modern history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into true crime, enduring mysteries, and more. Until next time, please stay safe out there and, as always, stay curious.